Hi, and welcome to week 1 of Curriculum Design and Assessment. I'm excited to be teaching this class. Haven't done it in a while, but it's a great class and a lot of information that you can take back and really apply in your classroom right away. Even if you're not planning to be an administrator, it's still something that it's great to know as a teacher. So for week 1, we're going to talk about curriculum approaches and the different styles that people have towards curriculum and why they have those views. So they start off with behavioral and managerial ideas towards curriculum, and really those ideas are about efficiency. They're time bound. They're thinking about people in a grade and what these kids need to learn in this grade, and then they move to the next grade and they do this. It was the approach when we first started schools because it was easier. It's just easier to say the kids are going to learn this thing at this time, and then they're going to move on to the next thing. Not really geared towards kids or what they needed, but it was the way that a lot of us were taught. There's a systems down approach where the district has a curriculum and they push it down to the classroom, and then you really don't get a whole lot of say in it. There is got to cooperate and communicate, but not from the school site up. It's more from the district office down. I think most of us would say that we had, when we went to school or when we first started teaching, the academic approach where it's skill-based. It's based on backwards mapping, so you look at what the kids have to do by the end and then plan out what are the skills that need to build on top of each other so they can do this product or this skill at the end, but really focused on the end result and how to get there. A lot about structure and a lot about knowledge, not about creation at all, really. And then the humanistic viewpoint is that we need to have that big picture and see what our kids need and then meet their needs. This is a little bit easier now. When you talk about it 10 years ago, we didn't have a lot of data on how kids were progressing, and teachers didn't have access to that data. As we use more technology programs now, we do have a lot more access to that. And that kind of brings us into the postmodern view of curriculum, that it's ongoing. It's not something that's developed and we've done the unit and we're done. It's ongoing and always constantly refined. So that cycle of continuous improvement based on what the kids need from the data that we collect. So I think lots of us are in that stage, or hopefully going to be there soon, and making sure that our curriculum meets the needs of our kids, because it's not just one way to do it. I want to make sure that you are also looking at, the curriculum workers and what different people have to do. There were a couple quotes in the book that said that teachers really shouldn't be involved in that. They should, not have to worry about it. And I'm of the mindset that the teachers are the best contributors to designing curriculum, because they know what works in a classroom. It's great to be at the district office and think this will be a wonderful idea, and then the teacher tries and yeah, that didn't work. And if we're not listening to the teachers and they're the experts in working with kids. They're there right now with the kids, and we need to listen to what they think about that. So I'm not into that, not including the teachers' idea. They also talk about the planned curriculum and the unplanned curriculum. And I think most of us that are parents understand this, that sometimes when we do things for our kids, we enable them in a certain way, and we weren't planning to make them that way. For example, my kids, when they were little, I obviously washed their clothes for them, and I kept doing that at a point when they could actually have done it themselves. And they came home from college I don't know how to wash my clothes. That's my fault, because I didn't teach them how to do it. It was I was taking that idea that I'm mom and I'm helping them out instead of teaching them to be ready. Sometimes in a classroom we'll do this when they're heavily reliant on us to answer questions instead of finding the answer themselves and trying to find it themselves or be creative about a situation, because we've said, don't go any place, ask me first. So then we've created the situation where they're not confident in their own knowledge. So knowing what we're planning and what we're not planning. And then that null curriculum too, there are reasons we have a null curriculum. I taught 6th grade. I wasn't teaching about sex and suicide and those kind of things in 6th grade because they weren't appropriate for that age level. But at some ages it is appropriate. And why are we including it and why are we leaving out? So make sure that you are conscious of your bias, either religious bias or political bias, of why you are including and not including things in curriculum, and what's the reason for it. If you have a good reason, like it's not age appropriate, or we're not talking about politics in third grade, that makes sense. But we're probably talking about politics in high school, and we need to have all different kind of viewpoints so kids can make good decisions and formulate their own thinking. All right. You're going to watch that Sir Ken Robinson video. I had not seen him. It was several years ago. My daughter is an artist, and she had, when she was in college, she's like, I love this man. He's my boyfriend. Well, who is this guy? So I watched him, and I love his message of creativity and putting art back into school and having that whole child instead of just teaching to that test. We've been doing that for a long time. I think we're more into now developing the whole child and realize there's more than academics for a kid. We have to have things for them to be creative and help their social emotional. We get that now that we have a little bit more funding, it's a little bit easier to do. You have due this week your philosophy page. Where is it? So it's 2 pages. You're going to include at least one source. You don't have to get crazy with this. You know, it's really your personal philosophy. You're going to talk about your experience as a teacher, well, as a student, as a teacher, and what you see your role in either curriculum development or as an administrator. How are you going to use this knowledge? And what's your preference style in curriculum? I'll tell you, when I first started teaching, I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was, we didn't have standards. I walked in, they gave you the books, they gave you the keys to the room, and they said, go with God. Good luck. There were no standards. There was no national test or state test at that point. You were kind of on your own. And as we have gotten, better at designing curriculum and having standards for kids and knowing what we're assessing for and what things they're supposed to be learning at certain grades, we had to design our own curriculum. So designing curriculum was one of the fun things. I think a lot of people that came in recently, like the last 10 years in teaching, had that scripted curriculum, and we're told you must read this and you can't deviate from it. And so they have no experience designing their own curriculum, which is really the fun part of teaching. Once you get into this and you try your hand at it, you're going to never want to use somebody's prefab unit again. You're going to have a lot of fun doing this. So I look forward to working with you this quarter, and I hope we have a great summer together, and I think we're going to have a lot of things that we accomplish together. If you need to call me or email me, you've got my information on the instructors page. I know that we don't meet online, which is different for me. I usually meet online. So I'll see you a lot of times in the discussion board, or I'm really good about returning emails. So look forward to working with you this quarter. Thanks.